A quiet village under the shadow of war, where the streets are empty and fear hangs in the air like a thick fog. Where families whisper about raids and disappearances while children peek cautiously from behind shuttered windows. And in the midst of this terror lives a girl so ordinary that everyone overlooks her, dismissing her as just another face in the crowd. Yet within her burns a determination that not even the most seasoned soldiers could predict. A determination that will lead her to save not one, not 10, but hundreds of lives in a sequence of events so improbable and astonishing that it defies belief. And it begins one gray morning when the air is cold and the distant sound of gunfire echoes through the valley. As she notices a group of civilians trapped in the path of advancing enemy forces, people frozen with fear, unsure where to run, their faces pale with dread. And the first moment of her extraordinary courage is not marked by a loud proclamation or heroic gesture, but by the subtle decision to act, to move with speed and precision, to guide those terrified families to safety through a narrow path only she seems to recognize. A path lined with obstacles and dangers hidden to the untrained eye, as if the earth itself were conspiring to slow their escape. Yet she moves as if possessed by an instinct that carries her beyond ordinary understanding, calculating each step, each turn, each choice of direction, while the enemy patrols advance blindly, unaware of the quiet force leading the civilians away from certain death. And as she reaches the first makeshift safe house, her heart pounding against her ribs, she realizes this is only the beginning, that the stakes will escalate with every life she touches, that her courage will be tested in ways no ordinary human could endure. And while historians later debate how such a young girl could orchestrate such an impossible rescue without proper resources, the truth lies in her unique combination of observation, intuition, and fearless commitment, a combination that turns her into a silent savior, moving like a shadow through bombed-out streets, warehouses, and forests, guiding one frightened family after another, always alert to the sounds of approaching soldiers, the whistle of bullets, the crackle of fires, and the cries of those too terrified to move. While she carries nothing more than a small satchel of essentials, a map crudely drawn by hand, and an iron resolve that no threat can diminish. And in this early stage of her mission, she begins to recognize a pattern in the chaos, a rhythm to the enemy's movements that allows her to predict when and where danger will strike next, a knowledge she leverages with every step, saving people in clusters, moving faster than anyone else could, thinking faster than anyone else could, and all the while the war rages around her, consuming towns, destroying bridges, turning homes into rubble, leaving death and destruction in its wake. Yet she presses on because for every life she saves, she knows she is tipping the scales ever so slightly in favor of humanity. And then comes the moment when she encounters a small group of children, alone and terrified. The youngest barely able to walk, the oldest on the verge of panic. And in an instant, she calculates the safest route, improvises tools to clear debris, and leads them away from sniper fire and advancing troops. Moving silently but purposefully, a ghost of hope in a nightmarish landscape. And as she reaches the relative safety of a hidden shelter, she pauses for a brief moment, chest heaving, eyes scanning the horizon, knowing that every second counts and that the enemy will soon catch up. Yet her mind is calm, precise, and unyielding, because she understands that hesitation would mean death for those she has sworn to protect. In this realization, her awareness of the delicate balance between life and death pushes her further, faster, smarter, and as she moves into the next stage of her rescue, guiding dozens more to safety, she becomes not just a girl, but a force that history will barely recognize. A savior whose name will be whispered in awe by those whose lives she changed. And all of this has happened before anyone in her village suspected her extraordinary abilities. Before anyone realized that an ordinary girl could wield such influence over fate itself, moving like a silent guardian through the chaos, shaping history one life at a time. And as the sun begins to set, casting long shadows over ruined streets and frightened townspeople, she continues her mission, moving invisibly, calculating the enemy's blind spots, identifying safe houses, leading families through forests, rivers, and bombed-out roads, until at last she has guided hundreds to temporary safety. Each saved life, a testament to her courage, foresight, and unwavering determination. And in the quiet moments, when she pauses to rest, she allows herself a fleeting thought that tomorrow she will have to do it all again, that the danger never ends, that the responsibility weighs heavily on her shoulders, yet she accepts it, because she knows that her actions define the difference between life and death for hundreds more. And in this single moment, the ordinary girl is transformed into an extraordinary hero, whose story, though hidden at the time, will later shock historians, inspire generations, and remind the world that courage can be found in the most unassuming forms, and that even one person, dismissed by everyone, can tip the scales against death, despair, and destruction, saving 776 lives not through weapons or armies, but through sheer human determination, strategy, and fearless heart. And as night falls over the bombed-out village, the girl moves through the shadows with a precision that seems impossible for someone so young. Her every step carefully calculated to avoid patrols, mines, and hidden snipers. Her mind racing with strategies that no one could anticipate. Yet she does it with a calm that belies the chaos around her, as she discovers abandoned cellars, hidden alleys, and forgotten tunnels that provide cover for the families she guides. And in each moment, she makes split-second decisions. Which path is safest? Which bridge can hold the weight of frightened civilians? Which door might conceal an enemy patrol, all while keeping the children close, calming them with whispered reassurances, their small hands clutching hers, trusting her completely. And she moves like a phantom, unseen, unheard, a force of nature that bends the environment to her will, turning destruction into opportunity, debris into pathways, fear into courage. And as she navigates through bombed streets, dodging falling rubble and the sounds of gunfire, she notices patterns in the enemy movements, the rhythm of their patrols, the timing of their sentries, the way they cluster near supply points, and she exploits every pattern, leading hundreds through routes that seem random to observers but are meticulously planned in her mind, her brain working faster than any human could naturally manage, memorizing every twist, turn, an obstacle while constantly adjusting her plan as the situation changes. And in the process, she begins to notice small acts of kindness and bravery among other villagers. Acts she records in her mind, incorporating them into her strategy, learning from every human behavior to optimize the safety of her charges. And in one terrifying instance, she finds herself confronted by a lone soldier blocking the escape route, his rifle trained directly at her, his eyes scanning for threats. And with a quick glance over her shoulder, she calculates that she has a single chance to mislead him, and with a gesture, a sudden movement, and a clever use of shadows, she directs him away from the group, turning a potential disaster into another successful maneuver. And as they continue, she encounters the aftermath of previous skirmishes, ruined buildings, injured civilians, smoke-filled streets, and she must integrate these unexpected variables into her ongoing plan, often improvising tools, creating makeshift stretchers, or guiding the injured over dangerous terrain, all without revealing panic, all without hesitation, maintaining a calm demeanor that inspires confidence and obedience in those she leads. And as dawn begins to break, painting the sky in blood-red hues over the war-torn landscape, she pauses briefly to assess her progress, realizing that hundreds more lives are still in jeopardy, that the enemy is regrouping, and that the clock is relentless. Yet she does not falter, because she has learned that fear, hesitation, and doubt are luxuries she cannot afford, and so she pushes forward, integrating everything she has learned, every route memorized, every pattern observed, every obstacle anticipated, all to ensure that 776 lives innocent, fragile, ordinary lives are brought through the storm of war to safety. And in these moments, the ordinary girl is no longer ordinary. She is a symbol of resistance, courage, and strategic genius, her actions rippling far beyond the streets she navigates, influencing outcomes that commanders, historians, and soldiers could never have foreseen. And even as she fights exhaustion, hunger, and the constant mental strain of managing the survival of hundreds, she discovers an inner resilience that seems superhuman, a capacity for leadership and foresight that history has rarely recognized. And it is in this relentless combination of instinct, intelligence, courage, and compassion that she achieves the impossible, setting the stage for the later points where her ingenuity, bravery, and humanity continue to save countless lives, all while remaining nearly invisible to the enemy. A shadow moving through devastation, bending reality with every step, turning despair into hope, chaos into order, and fear into life itself. And as the morning light filters through the crumbling walls of bombed-out buildings, the girl presses forward with an unrelenting focus, calculating every move with the precision of a seasoned strategist, observing not only the enemy movements, but also the terrain itself, the uneven cobblestones, the unstable wooden beams, the hidden ditches and sudden drops that could either trap her or be used to her advantage. She adapts instantly, improvising bridges with debris, marking safe paths with subtle chalk signs only she understands, all while keeping dozens of terrified civilians close behind. Their trust in her absolute, their lives depending on her intuition and courage, and she guides them through streets filled with smoke and chaos, dodging patrols, avoiding landmines, navigating narrow alleys, leading them past burned-out vehicles and collapsed buildings, constantly monitoring for sounds of enemy activity and adjusting routes in real time. And each successful maneuver reinforces her confidence, while every near disaster sharpens her instincts further, creating a rhythm of movement, observation, and adaptation that becomes almost instinctual, allowing her to operate under pressure that would paralyze most adults. Yet she does so calmly, efficiently, and with unwavering determination. And as the day progresses, she encounters more obstacles: families scattered and separated, children too young to walk quickly, elderly villagers struggling under the weight of fear and exhaustion, but she manages each situation with ingenuity and compassion, creating makeshift stretchers, encouraging the frightened, calming the panicked, and using her small stature and agility to scout ahead and test routes before committing the group, effectively becoming both leader and shield. And as she navigates through a partially collapsed bridge, she notices signs of enemy scouts searching nearby, their movements systematic and relentless. And she calculates an alternate path using her knowledge of the village's hidden routes, narrow passages, and abandoned cellars, allowing the group to slip past undetected. And in these moments, her understanding of human behavior, her keen observation of enemy patterns, and her ability to anticipate danger all converge, enabling her to lead dozens of lives away from imminent peril. And as the hours pass, exhaustion weighs heavily on her body. Hunger gnaws at her stomach, yet her mind remains razor-sharp, each decision calculated to maximize survival. And despite the physical and emotional strain, she finds strength in the trust of those she protects, the hope she instills, and the small victories of safely reaching another temporary refuge. And every life saved reinforces her resolve, proving that even one ordinary girl, underestimated and dismissed by those around her, can make a monumental difference when courage, intelligence, and determination are combined. And as she pauses momentarily to catch her breath in a hidden corner, watching the terrified villagers begin to regain composure, she realizes that her mission is far from over, that hundreds more are still in danger. Yet she feels a deep inner certainty that she is capable, that she has already proven the extraordinary potential hidden within the ordinary, and that through every calculated risk, every step through fire and rubble, in every decision made in the shadows, she is shaping not only the lives of those she rescues, but the course of events in ways history may never fully acknowledge. And it is this combination of ingenuity, bravery, and unshakable resolve that allows her to continue moving forward, rescuing more lives, outsmarting the enemy, navigating the chaos, and defying the impossible, setting the stage for the continuation of her incredible story as one of the most remarkable and little-known heroes of the war. And as the afternoon sun casts long shadows over the shattered village, the girl moves with a mix of stealth, speed, and precision, her senses heightened to a degree that borders on the supernatural. Noticing the faintest sounds of footsteps, the slightest shift in smoke patterns, the glint of metal that could indicate a hidden weapon, and each observation informs her next move, allowing her to guide dozens of civilians through bombed streets, ruined buildings, and twisted debris with an almost preternatural awareness. And even as exhaustion threatens to overtake her, she relies on her acute sense of timing and spatial awareness to navigate narrow passageways and treacherous terrain, calculating how long it will take for enemy patrols to return, how to distract or mislead them, and how to move her charges safely without attracting attention. And when they encounter a partially collapsed bridge over a river that could either save or doom them depending on her choices, she instinctively tests its stability, improvises reinforcement using scattered debris, and leads the group across with careful coordination, ensuring that no one falters. And in moments like these, the combination of courage, ingenuity, and calm decisiveness becomes her superpower, a force that transforms her from an ordinary girl into an extraordinary protector. And as she continues through the maze of destruction, she begins to notice patterns in the enemy's behavior, the timing of patrols, the routes they favor, the way they respond to sounds and movement, and she leverages these patterns to create safe corridors, leading groups through areas the enemy assumes are dangerous, turning fear into opportunity, and with each successful maneuver, she strengthens the trust of those she leads, instilling hope even amidst despair. And when she comes across a group of children separated from their families, terrified and crying, she does not hesitate, quickly improvising a plan to reunite them while maintaining the safety of the larger group, all the while monitoring the environment for threats, planning multiple contingencies in her mind simultaneously, and orchestrating every movement like a conductor directing a symphony, where every note and every pause could mean life or death. And as evening approaches, she faces perhaps the most dangerous challenge, yet a heavily patrolled street that is the only remaining route to safety. With no cover and enemy soldiers scanning the area methodically, but she calculates their blind spots, times her group's movements perfectly, and with silent signals, guides them across one by one, her heart pounding, every instinct engaged, knowing that a single mistake could result in catastrophe, yet moving forward with the unwavering focus that has defined her journey from the very beginning. And in these tense, harrowing moments, it becomes clear that what she has achieved is not mere luck or coincidence, but the product of unparalleled observational skill, courage under pressure, strategic thinking, and deep empathy for those she protects. And even as danger looms, she remains committed, aware that hundreds of lives depend entirely on her, that each step she takes carries the weight of responsibility and the potential for both salvation and tragedy. And it is this unrelenting combination of bravery, intelligence, and human compassion that allows her to continue saving life after life, ultimately culminating in the extraordinary rescue of 776 people, whose survival will forever be a testament to the quiet, unassuming yet unstoppable force of a girl dismissed by all, underestimated by everyone, and yet capable of achieving the impossible. And as the smoke of war slowly clears and the echoes of gunfire fade into memory, the girl who had been dismissed by everyone, underestimated for her age and unassuming appearance, finally steps into the quiet aftermath. Her mission complete, but the weight of every life she saved and every danger she endured pressing on her like an invisible mantle. And it is here that the magnitude of her actions becomes undeniable. 776 lives that would have been lost are now alive because of her courage, foresight, and relentless determination. Yet even as the world slowly rebuilds, and soldiers and civilians alike emerge from hiding, her role remains largely unknown, her name unspoken in the halls of history. But the truth is evident to those who survived, to the families reunited, to the children who now grow up without knowing the terror that awaited them, And this girl? Once ordinary in the eyes of her neighbors and overlooked by everyone around her, stands as a living testament to the extraordinary potential within the underestimated, proving that intelligence, bravery, and unwavering moral courage can outweigh armies, weapons, and fear. And as she walks among the survivors, guiding them to shelter and food, ensuring that the chaos left behind does not undo the miracles she orchestrated, the question that lingers, haunting in the quiet, is this: how many other lives might have been lost if she had been ignored, if her courage had faltered, if her insight had gone unrecognized and yet she endured? A silent hero whose actions reshaped the fate of hundreds, teaching the world that the smallest, quietest, seemingly ordinary individuals can leave the largest impact, and that true heroism often wears no medals, seeks no recognition, and yet changes history irrevocably. And as the sun sets over the ruins, casting long shadows over villages, forests, and rivers, she traversed to save lives. The story closes with awe and suspense. One ordinary girl, armed only with courage, intelligence, and heart, accomplished what countless armies could not, saving 776 souls from destruction, proving that heroism is measured not by size, rank, or fame, but by the willingness to act when others fail to see what must be done, leaving a legacy that is both humbling and inspiring. A story of survival, brilliance, and humanity that will forever resonate, a reminder that the underestimated, the dismissed, and the overlooked can sometimes change the course of history in ways no one could anticipate, and that in the quietest, darkest moments of war, it takes only one extraordinary individual to tip the scales from death to life, from despair to hope, from annihilation to salvation. And this extraordinary girl did exactly that, forever engraving her courage into the lives of those she saved, a legacy that even history cannot fully erase.